German. Ich werde schnell in beiden Sprachen erklären, was so der Ablauf ist von heute. Wir haben unser Sonntagsprogramm, das heißt, jetzt wird es eine Klasse geben für 1 Stunde und danach gibt es ein großes Prasadam, vegetarisches Festessen um 5 Uhr. 6:15 Uhr haben wir einen Japa-Workshop, Mantra-Meditation, wo man das selber ausprobieren kann. Und von 7 bis 8 gibt es eine Tempelzeremonie und im Anschluss nochmal Kirtan, so wie wir es jetzt gerade gemacht haben. So, today we'll have our Sunday program, that means class now. And then at 5 o'clock there will be a prasadam, vegetarian feast, served to all of you. At 6:15 there will be a japa workshop where you can try out mantra meditation on beats for yourself. And from 7 to 8 there will be a temple ceremony. And from 8 to 9 more singing, 9:30 actually, like we just had now. And so I would like to ask Mother Devaki to take her seat, the hot seat. Be very happy. Sure. Can maybe this one, or would you like this good?
Und braucht denn jemand Übersetzung auf Englisch?
Das werden wir noch. Also du wirst in Englisch sprechen. Ja, ja. Also ich mache einfach eine simultane Deutsch.
Okay.
Das ist gut.
Und vielleicht noch eine Backe.
Willst du gerne einen Tisch haben? Willst du gerne einen Tisch haben für die Bücher? Okay. All right, so we're very, very fortunate and happy to have with us Her Grace Devaki Mataji. I think many of you know her already. She's originally born in Germany, but then traveled the world at a young age, and in Australia really came across Krishna consciousness. That's where she became a devotee and lived in the ashram also in 1985, if I'm not wrong. Yes, that time. So she stayed in the ashram, lived as a nun, and got a good grasp and experience of what Krishna consciousness is while living in the ashram. But then also, after that, she lived outside of the temple and was engaged in many, many different services. And in more recent years, she's been very well known for writing of very beautiful books, which she will surely also show us a little bit. There's also a table outside. You can have a look later on. And in these books, she really describes her experiences that she had while, for example, living in the country of Bangladesh, where the culture of this Vaishnavism is still very, very present to this day. And so she has really experienced what it means to live in very loving and tightly knit communities of devotees. And so she's sharing a lot of these realizations with us, and we're very, very grateful for this service of her. And also she has founded, tell me again the name of your institute?
Institute for Spiritual Culture.
The Institute for Spiritual Culture, where she's propagating that knowledge and sharing with us.
So, du willst mir das umhängen? Es war wohl das erste Mal, dass jemand eine Girlande umgehängt hast. Hast du aber gut gemacht.
Auf Deutsch nochmal. Unsere Mutter Devaki ist heute mit uns. Wir sind sehr glücklich, dass sie da ist. Und sie hat das Krishna-Bewusstsein 1985 in Australien kennengelernt. Hat während 4 Jahren im Brahmacharini Ashram, also im Tempel gelebt, Krishna-Bewusstsein dort so gestartet und ist dann auf der ganzen Welt eben auch im Dienste Krishnas unterwegs gewesen und immer noch, muss man sagen. Sie reist sehr viel rum und teilt so ihre Verwirklichungen, die sie auch gemacht hat, beispielsweise als sie für über 20 Jahre in Bangladesch gelebt hat und dort wirklich erlebt hat, was heißt es, wenn das Krishna-Bewusstsein noch so richtig traditionell auch praktiziert wird. Auch diese sehr liebevollen Austausche zwischen den Devotees hat sie dort sehr schön miterleben können und vieles davon auch in ihren Büchern verarbeitet und uns auf diese Weise zugänglich gemacht. Und mittlerweile eben reist sie auch sehr viel auf der ganzen Welt, um das Wissen in verschiedenen Seminaren und Kursen in ganz vielen Tempeln auf der Welt mit uns zu teilen. Und so ja, sind wir sehr, sehr glücklich und freuen uns sehr, dass sie heute sprechen wird über die Bhagavad Gita ein bisschen. Und without further ado, würde ich jetzt gerne das Wort übergeben. Vielleicht eine Sache, genau, wenn alle noch ein bisschen nach vorne kommen könnten, dass wenn Leute später kommen, die auch noch Platz haben. Und dann, wer braucht eine Übersetzung von Englisch in Deutsch? Sonst noch jemand? Sonst würden wir uns da hinten hinsetzen, wenn es geht, in dieser Ecke. Bei Astor. Du kannst auch den Stuhl mitnehmen, wenn du lieber am Stuhl sitzt.
Ja? Nee, ich fange an zu reden. Meine Stimme ist ein bisschen krächzig. Ja? Om Agyantimandasya Yananjala Shalakaya Chakshun Malitam Jana Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Stavadam Yenubuttale Swayam Upakaramayam Dadati Swabadatikam Namo Vishnavada Krishnavista Vuttale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nirvishisha Shanivari Pasatara Satare Vanchakalpa Tuvasa Kripa Sanvevacha Padittanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, thank you so much for allowing me to say a few words and share some thoughts and realizations. It's been a little more than 2 years that I came to Zurich, and it is always nice to come and visit, and it's quite a dynamic place. So many devotees come, and yeah, I'm happy and honored that I can be here with you. So yes, even though I am by nationality German, but I haven't lived there for over 40 years, and I can express myself better in English. So that's why, yes, you're kind enough to allow me to speak English. Yeah, because I think and dream in English. I'm not much in German-speaking areas of the world. So, yeah, my German gets a little rusty, and I don't read Prabhupada's books in German. It all sounds very strange to me when I... and Prabhupada's English is just very special. I actually recommend everybody to read Prabhupada's books in English, if possible, because Prabhupada's English is so unique and so special and so sweet, how he sometimes combines words, you know, and all this you lose when you read the translation. Yeah, so, but when we read in English, we can feel more Prabhupada speaking, actually. So I highly recommend it. Good. So I would like to discuss a topic today which I hope is interesting for everyone, because sometimes, do we have anybody who's here the first time? Oh yes, quite a few. Okay. So Sunday programs, not so easy to find topics which are, you know, easily understandable and relatable to people who come first time, but then also some people may be here 35, 40 years in Krishna consciousness. So I'm always endeavoring to take a topic which is interesting for everyone. So I would like to discuss the power of consciousness. What is consciousness, right? And how does other people's consciousness affect us? How do we affect other people's consciousness? And after all, we are the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So let us understand what is consciousness. And actually, Prabhupada used to say, before becoming Krishna conscious, we have to first become conscious. So let's become conscious of what consciousness is. Yes, because often we use this term, but we don't really think so much what it actually means. Yeah. So actually, we have a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which I just very quickly want to read. No need for in response and all that, because there the nice analogy is given that just like the sun illuminates the whole universe through sunshine, in the same way, consciousness floods the whole body, emanating from the soul. Yeah. So this is a very nice analogy which we can quite easily relate to. So this is 13th chapter, verse 34, if you want to look on your phone, okay? And I will not even chant the Sanskrit. I will just read the translation, and there is a little purport also. So it says here, O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So in other words, consciousness is that life force which emanates from the soul and floods the whole body. And not only human body, but as soon as there is growth, it means there is a soul present. And as soon as there is a soul present, there is consciousness. So that means animals, plants, trees, there is consciousness. Oh yes, yeah. Sometimes in a more dull and covered state, but then sometimes in a more awake, alert, and uplifted state in different forms of life. You know? So let me read the purport. There are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place, but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of spirit soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul, as sunshine or light is the proof of the presence of the sun. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man or woman. So let's try and be intelligent here today and easily understand this. Therefore, consciousness is not a product of the combination of matter, like sometimes the scientists try to prove. It is the symptom of the living entity. The consciousness of the living entity, although qualitatively one with the supreme consciousness, is not supreme, because the consciousness of a particular body does not share that of another body. But the supersoul, which is situated in all bodies as the friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That is the difference between supreme consciousness and individual consciousness. So this last part is maybe not so easy to grasp. Basically, Krishna is the supreme soul with divine, pure consciousness. And the living entity actually has the same qualities like the supreme soul, but in small quantities. So originally, our consciousness is also actually pure and divine, actually. But now, being in the material world, it is covered. So, and interestingly, it says, Prabhupada explains here, that Krishna, because he is in all living entities as super soul, he is conscious of all living entities. Whereas we are only conscious of this one body. And I think we can say, thank God. You know, just imagine if we were conscious of every living entity, my God, you know, we could go mad, you know. So thank God it is like that we are only conscious of this one body, you know. Although, yes, as we, you know, uplift our consciousness, purify our consciousness, we may also be conscious of the presence of other living entities around us, you know, yes. Yeah. So we are not all unconscious of other living entities, you know. Yeah, so it's a very nice analogy, really describing what is happening, you know, that the consciousness is the life force flooding the whole body, keeping every cell in the body alive. Yeah, yeah. So I'm coming from medical background. So I remember I used to work as a physiotherapist in Germany, but this is 42 years ago, so please don't come with your back problems. Sometimes people do this. You know. So, yeah, so I remember, you know, when somebody cuts off the tip of their finger, you only have a very short time to stitch it back on, 10, 15 minutes or something. And if that tip of finger is disconnected with the powerhouse of consciousness, then the cells die off and you can't stitch it back on, you know, yes. And I used to exercise people like that, you know. Yes, so, you know, that's how consciousness keeps the cell alive, the metabolism. And as Prabhupada describes, this is the difference between a live body and dead body. So dead body, soul has moved on, therefore no more consciousness. You know? Yes, that's, as Prabhupada says, any intelligent person can understand this very easily. Yes, so and now it's not only, consciousness is not only flooding the body, it is also emanating through every pore of the skin. Yes. Yeah. If we are a little perceptive, we can feel this. There was this nice story where Prabhupada was walking through a city in America somewhere on the way to Rath Yatra, our Indian chariot festival. You have Rath Yatra here also in Zurich. So Prabhupada was on the way to a Rath Yatra parade, and he was surrounded by a group of disciples, and the disciples overheard a talk between two policemen. And one was saying to the other, "Look at this man, he is glowing." So they had no clue who Prabhupada was, no clue. But they could perceive that there was some effulgence emanating from Prabhupada, you know. So this is factual. I'm just looking. Yeah, we are having pictures, you know, usually, you know, saintly personality always has this aura, this Heiligenschein, how we say in German, right? Yes. So even in Christianity, you know, pictures of some saintly personalities, they usually have this aura, this Heiligenschein, you know. So this is not just some artistic tool or something, but it's actually factual. Yeah. So much so that these policemen could perceive this from Prabhupada. Quite amazing. So basically we can say, there is a whole spectrum. On one side we have this divine, fully pure and godly consciousness, and on the other side of the spectrum is not so pure and godly consciousness. We can call it false ego, envy, lusty consciousness, right? Yes. And that also emanates from a person who is in such kind of state of mind. So again, if we are a little perceptive, we can sense that, we can feel that, we feel some negativity coming from this person. And we may have that experience. Let's say we had some disagreement, some argument, some tension with a person, and we are with that person in a relatively small room. Even though nobody says anything, but you can feel there is some tension in the air, right? We have that experience. And we can feel, this person is upset with me, sending negative thoughts here towards me. So this is the power of consciousness. So now our process of Krishna consciousness is meant to transform this lustful, greedy, envious, false ego consciousness back into this divine, sublime, godly consciousness. That's what we are trying to do here, actually. So this bhakti yoga is a whole transformational process. We don't want to stay as we are. We want to transform. Very often we can find ourselves in the situation where our spiritual practice is rather external and mechanical, and we just go externally through the motions, but internally nothing is changing, nothing is transforming. This is easily happening, So we can't emphasize this too much, how the whole process of bhakti is a deep internal process which requires reflection, introspection, being honest to oneself, accepting guidance where we have to work on ourselves and like that. I do want to share a little story which exemplifies how consciousness is in every cell of the body. So I do know one family in Australia, they are also in Krishna consciousness, and he had a kidney failure. So his wife gave him one of her kidneys. So we can live with one kidney if the kidney is in reasonably good condition. So she donated one of her kidneys to him. And she was the only one in the family who had, quite a bit of a taste, if not to say some slight addiction to eating chocolate. Nobody else in her family was eating chocolate, but she really liked chocolate. And she had a little chocolate stash there in her cupboard, And when they both came back from the surgery, she felt like having some chocolate. And she's going to a cupboard and whoops, chocolate is gone. What happened? So she asked her husband, do you have an idea where my chocolate went? So he was a little embarrassed, saying, well, something overcame me. And I went to your cupboard and stole it, and I ate it all. And then they were thinking, well, maybe this is connected with this kidney transplantation. And on the next checkup, when they saw their doctor, they were telling the story. And the doctor was laughing and saying, yes, we know this. Every time we transplant an organ, the person receiving the organ for some time has the same cravings like the person donating it. And then he said, it seems like organs can remember things, which is of course nonsense. The organs cannot remember things. But this doctor didn't know the power of consciousness. So her kidney was flooded with chocolate consciousness. And that chocolate consciousness emanated from that kidney when it was in her husband's body. You know, and for a week or 10 days, he had this craving for chocolate. And then his new kidney was flooded with his consciousness, which was free from chocolate consciousness. So, and then that craving for chocolate went away, you know. So, I mean, that's a medical proof, you know, how consciousness is really in every cell of the body, flooding the whole body and emanating. Yeah, yeah. And I have met one devotee, he told me that his young son, he was maybe 5 or 6, he needed some bone marrow transplantation, some Knochenmark, wie sagt man? Transplantation, yeah. So, and he was sharing that for a whole year, his son was quite affected and disturbed, you know. So, we don't know who gave this bone marrow and what this person did. Maybe all kinds of bad activities, drinking, smoking, drugs, you know, sex every day with a different person or whatever, you know. So, I mean, in our case with the kidney, it was only chocolate consciousness. But yeah, in that case, and also a child's consciousness is more vulnerable and easily, you know, affected by external situations and. So yeah, he was sharing this privately with me, that it took the kid a whole year to get back to normal, you know. Yes. So interesting to know. Of course, we are not going that far that we say we don't accept any kind of, you know, even blood transfusion or something. Oh, there's some consciousness. No, I mean, if it's a life-death situation, we take that risk and so on, you know. Sometimes people say, well, maybe we can preach, you know, by donating our blood. But the effect would be very short, you know, just a few days or something. Yes, so, yeah, that's an interesting point. And of course, naturally, once we understand that, we also realize during pregnancy, the child in the womb is flooded by the mother's consciousness completely. Yes. This is a good thing to know, you know. Yes, child raising starts not only when the child is born, already during pregnancy, in fact, already before conception, you know. Yes, but when the child is in the womb, very close connection, and the mother's consciousness is flooding it all and already affecting the child, you know. And before conception, interesting little side point, it's not a coincidence which soul takes birth in our family, because the consciousness of the parents at the moment of conception, that invites a certain soul to take birth. Not a coincidence. So, if the parents really wish to have a child and they have a prayerful mood, they were praying to the Lord before to please send a nice child. So then the soul is already spiritually more elevated, more advanced, you know. But if a you know, pregnancy comes about in a drunk state or whatever, so then it doesn't attract such an elevated soul. Let's put it that way. So, not a coincidence. It's a whole big science, which we don't want to go into now, but just good to hear, by the way, that, this is how consciousness really works, And of course, when we create things with our hands, every movement actually we do is executed through consciousness. So when we create something with our hands, let's say we cook. So those of us here who are more familiar with our lifestyle and practice, so we say the consciousness of the cook enters the food, right? Many of us know this, yes. So that's why we are in the temple, we are careful who cooks it, that we try to have devotees cooking who are hopefully in good consciousness, who follow our regulative principles, who do some japa meditation regularly, and because that consciousness comes out through the fingertips, enters the cooking. Yeah. So it means, those of us who are a little more serious in this whole process of bhakti, we don't just look, what's in it? Is it vegetarian? But no, who cooked it? Right? Yes, who cooked it? Yes. So, those who are a little more sincere, we usually don't like to go to vegetarian restaurants where the cooks are not practicing this kind of lifestyle, because that consciousness enters. So if you cook something with, angry, lusty mood and greedy and agitated or whatever, so that all enters the food. If we eat this once, we may not immediately notice, but if it is a regular thing, it will definitely affect us very subtly. These things are very subtle, but it will have an effect. And it will, the effect will be that it increases our material desires. We capture what that person's consciousness is like, so we capture something from that. And it will have an effect, and if we are a little perceptive, we may even feel it and realize, okay, better I stop this. So even packaged food in the supermarket, cookies, sweets, chips, this, that, very strictly practicing devotees, even bread, we don't really like to buy from the bakery, but we bake it ourselves, or get it from the temple or whatever, Yeah, so good to know, good to know, yeah. Yes, and not only cooking, talking about cooking, I think we all know that mother's cooking is the best, right? Yes. Yes, even people outside who don't know anything about bhakti, they understand mother's cooking is the best, especially if it's vegetarian, and especially if it is also offered to the Lord with love and devotion, cooked for the Lord. But Prabhupada says, mother's love is the purest form of love in this material world, because mother means we serve 24/7, at least when the kids are small. So we are willing to sacrifice ourselves, So, and if a mother cooks with devotion and affection, enters the food, Yes. And not only cooking, anything we create with our hands, Let's say our mother knits a scarf for us for the winter season. Yes. So she puts all her devotion and affection into this knitting. There is a certain energy there which lingers in that scarf. Yes, yes. Has a whole different energy than something bought from the factory, Yeah. That's why handcrafted things always are very attractive, doesn't matter what it is. I know one devotee in Germany in a rural community. He, over many years, he built his own house from wood with only very minimal machinery. So he put a lot of work and artistic, thoughts and so on in it. And wow, I stayed not long ago for a week in his house. It has definitely a pretty amazing energy, You can't compare it to some concrete block there, Yes, because so much of his effort and energy went into that. And wood is also a nice material, really sucking up, the subtle energies and all that, So yeah, good to know and observe these things, And of course, every movement we do is executed through consciousness, So some devotees who experience Prabhupada personally, they often share how every movement Prabhupada was doing was so amazingly attractive and fascinating and beautiful. The way Prabhupada would walk. By the way, for those who don't know who is Prabhupada, here he is sitting on the seat. So he brought this Krishna consciousness, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, he brought it to the whole world actually. Within a few short years he traveled the globe and established centers everywhere. And he has many disciples, pupils, Srila, and many of them are still around. So often we hear them talking about their experience with Prabhupada, and they often say the way Prabhupada moved, how he was walking, how he was dancing, how he was smiling, laughing, how he would flick a piece of prasadam in his hand, in his mouth, was all so amazingly beautiful and fascinating. So that is because every movement was executed with this divine, sublime, godly consciousness, and that makes everything so amazingly beautiful, And people were just fascinated just watching Prabhupada, Yes. So, but then we have also the other example, if a person's heart is full of lust and greed and anger and envy, false ego, wants to be noticed all the time, bringing attention to himself or herself. So then when such a person moves, not so fascinatingly beautiful, but you can feel, this person wants to show off, and the way he laughs and talks and moves and, yes. So, and we may kind of feel some certain discomfort in that person's closer association, and yes, and we may rather want to keep a little distance. It's almost like a contagious disease. So in pandemic we learned the social distancing. So sometimes, if we are not strong enough to counteract a person's, covered and contaminated consciousness, if we can't give our association to that person, then we should rather keep a little distance, because it will ignite some dormant, lust, anger, envy, and because we may still have this dormant in the heart. We are not quite cured yet from it. So, and if we have that kind of association, that ignites it again. Yes. Yes. So then also, as I mentioned in the beginning, consciousness is of course there also in animals, definitely, yes, cats, dogs, cows, they express emotions and so many things. Of course there's consciousness there, And some animals have even capacities which are far beyond the human capacities. Dogs can smell all kinds of things and so on, yes. So, but not only in animals, even in plants, in trees. Oh yes, trees, there is consciousness there. Yeah, trees are actually quite amazing creatures. Yeah. And when I was a teenager, which is quite a while ago, some 52 years ago or something, I heard a report on the radio. I was at that time in Germany. And in those days, we were listening more to the radio, or this internet and YouTube didn't exist. So I remember this report on the radio, and it impressed me so much that I still remember it now. And they were demonstrating the consciousness of trees. So the consciousness, the vibrations of the consciousness, they somehow transformed into sound vibration. Don't ask me how, but somehow they did it. And they were proving what a tree sounds like that is in a peaceful and relaxed state of mind. Let's put it that way. And it was just some buzzing. Bzzz. And then they demonstrated what a tree sounds like that is in anxiety. Yeah, and that sounded pretty differently. I don't want to try and demonstrate it. But it was all going up and down and going all wild there, And then they explained why this tree is in anxiety. And they said, because a man approached that tree who about 2 or 3 years before cut off some branches. Yeah. And that tree recognized that person. Oh no, not this guy coming again. So let's see what he's doing this time to me. Yeah, the tree was in anxiety, because trees also bleed when we cut their branches. Some tree sap is coming off, Yes, yes. Yeah, so and of course we may think, well, how is this? A tree has no eyes to see. But no, the tree could feel that person's energy and consciousness, Yeah. So and Prabhupada was very much emphasizing that devotees should not cut down trees. Yeah, he was really emphasizing this. Because trees don't only, produce oxygen and take up carbon dioxide, but they also take up negative energy and they give off healing energy. An Ayurvedic doctor in South India explained this to me. And also, of course, give shade and fruits, leaves, flowers, fruits, whatever. So trees are very beneficial. I mean, what would life be without trees, Parks, gardens. The trees always give some special mood and energy there, Any of you has been to our Juhu temple in Mumbai? Juhu, some of you. Yes. Maybe you remember exactly outside the temple there is a tree. You know which one I'm talking about? Yeah. This tree looks really like it's in an odd place. It's kind of in the middle of one lane of a little road. It's almost in the middle of the road. And you're wondering, here, a tree? What's this tree doing here, It really stands out. You can't miss it, So, and there's also a whole story behind this, which one of Prabhupada's disciples, Giriraj Maharaj, he mentioned this story in one of his Vyasa Puja homages for Prabhupada. So, and when Prabhupada established this this temple in Mumbai, there was this tree there, and Prabhupada really firmly said, please don't cut this tree down. Just leave it where it is. And the devotees followed that. Up till today, the tree is there. And when Prabhupada left Mumbai for some time and came back, when the devotees received him at the airport, first question of Prabhupada was, is this tree still there? Or did you cut it down? Prabhupada was so concerned. That's what Giriraj Maharaj says in his homage to him, in his glorification, that Prabhupada was not only concerned about his disciples and human beings, but even so much concern about trees, that it was his first question, did you cut this tree off or is it still there? Yes. Yeah, so trees, vegetables, even vegetables, there's consciousness there. I know one devotee in Sweden, in one of our communities in Almvik, he grows organic vegetables. He grows carrots and so many other things. And I once talked to him about this, that plants have consciousness. And he said, yes, I'm convinced. My neighbor, he also grows organic vegetables. His soil is much better than mine, but my carrots taste better. And that is because I talk to them, I chant Hare Krishna to them, I grow them with love and devotion so they can be offered to our deities, Panchatattva deities. So that's why they taste better. So then if they're grown with love and devotion, the carrots are more happy. They can feel this, and therefore they put more taste into their roots there, Yes. So these things are factual, It's not something, that is just some, ideas or something. And I mean, at least in Germany, I don't know what it's like here in Switzerland, but when you buy organic vegetables in the supermarket, they're often completely tasteless because they're often grown with machines. You see these big greenhouses, there's all machines going, watering, pulling out the weeds, harvesting. There's no more human interaction. And that's why the carrots there are not so happy, Yes. And that's why even though they're organically grown, they don't taste so nice, Yes. Yeah, so it's so pretty interesting, to see how consciousness works. So now the last point I want to make. Consciousness travels on sound vibration. That's a pretty interesting thing too. So whatever sound comes out of our mouth, by speaking, by singing, the consciousness of that person travels on that sound and affects people's hearts, So I see this as a very special arrangement of the Lord, because that's what makes kirtan into a transcendental affair. Yes. Kirtan is not just some nice music, but actually the consciousness of the person leading the kirtan travels on the sound vibration and affects people's hearts. So we capture whatever that person carries in their heart. Yes. Yeah. So this means, kirtan should be chanted, with devotion, feelingly calling out for the Lord and longing for the relationship. We can actually understand kirtan as the perfect and sublime love song. Like the mundane love songs, I love you, you love me, I can't live without you, So this is actually what we should be offering to the Lord, that feeling. I love you, you love me, I cannot live without you. You know? Yeah. So kirtan is the perfect sublime love song. And what love songs we know here in the material world, they're like a perverted reflection. So yeah, if kirtan is sung with this devotion in the heart, longing for the relationship, you know, pure-heartedly, not trying to bring attention to ourselves or show off, you know, then it has a very uplifting effect. Yeah. That's what kirtan is all about. It's a very subtle heart-to-heart transfer of consciousness, actually. Even speaking too, so you better watch out what you're capturing here. Yes, so, and of course also if a kirtan is maybe sung by not such a mature personality who really feels, oh, everybody has to hear my beautiful voice, and you know, so then that kind of consciousness travels on the sound coming out of the mouth. Yeah, no, I mean, let's be honest, we are not free of that, you know. Yes. And it's not only in singing, it's also playing instruments, playing Madanga kartals. It's all executed through consciousness coming out of the fingertips. So if a Madanga player, you know, wants to show off how great he is, or she, and bring attention to themselves, then if you're a little perceptive, you can feel this. And it's always just this touch too loud, wanting to be heard and noticed, you know, and it actually contaminates the kirtan experience. Yes. So that's why when we enter kirtan, we should really try and be in a humble mood of simply wanting to serve the holy name and not show off and bring attention to ourselves, but all attention goes to the Lord, you know, and then it is a very transcendental and uplifting experience, you know. So understanding this makes it very clear we have to be a little careful with what kind of sound vibration we surround ourselves, right? So again, those who are a little more serious in this whole bhakti process, yeah, we don't really want to have some rock music or some Bollywood, Indian cinemas music and all these kind of things, you know, because, yeah, those, you know, personalities who are singing there, not such good consciousness, and it affects the heart. It does, you know. So we are a little choosy, you know. We want to invite some uplifting, divine, you know, sound vibration into our life, because we all like to have a little bit of music, but we have to discriminate a little bit, you know. Yes, yes. Yeah, so good to know all these things, you know, to try and avoid as much as possible some contaminating effects or something, you know. So now we have 5 to 5. I think, if you allow me, I will quickly take now the opportunity to just say a few words about these books I published, because I've published 6 books, and they're actually all 15-hour courses, which I teach in India, in Mayapur. But because not everybody can come to India and take all these courses, that's why I'm putting them all one by one into book form, then they can reach more people. And they're all very interesting topics. They're all dealing with the practical application of our philosophy. Like Prabhupada's books, they are like the law books for civilized humanity. But often the law books are a little complex. And it's not so easy to understand how we are meant to apply them in our life. So I'm trying to make Prabhupada's teachings practically accessible to people. Yeah. So that's my humble aspiration. So the first book I published is Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This book is actually all about women. We women have a very powerful Shakti, very powerful energy, much more powerful than man's energy. So a woman can bring the very best out of a man, spiritually, materially. She can help him to come to his topmost level of performance, or she can ruin his life and destroy him. That's the power of a woman. Yeah, you're laughing. Well, sometimes we can cry, you know. No, but seriously, that's the power of a woman. Yeah, man doesn't have that same power. Yeah, I mean, a woman, our scriptures are full of stories where a woman's tinkling ankle bells make a great saintly person fall down, you know. But we never hear the other way, how the tinkling ankle bells of a man, maybe Krishna personified, okay, but how, you know, the tinkling ankle bells of a man make a woman lose her mind, you know. So that's the power of a woman. So yeah, every woman who wants to have harmonious relationships with men in her life should please check out this book. And every man who wants to get the empowerment and support of a woman should also please check out the book. Actually, the men always love this book. They always say to me, oh, finally, somebody understands a man's heart, how a man's heart is ticking. That's the responses I get. You know? Very helpful for married life. And then we have sheltering relationships. This is all about the importance of having a mentor. That just guru, having a spiritual master, is not quite enough. We need a well-wishing friend who is more experienced than we are, who guides us on a very regular basis and who helps us to move forward. And if we don't have that, very easily we stay in our comfort zone and then we become stagnant. And we can come here for 30 years, every week to the Sunday program. We may even do a little bit of service, but nothing really transforms, because as soon as we walk out the door, we leave everything as it is, you know, and then no transformation takes place. Very important topic. We have lost a lot of wonderful devotees over the last years because we did not understand the importance of mentorship. You know, we should have one person in our life who we want to be corrected by. You know, sometimes we don't want to be corrected by anybody. Risky situation, you know. Yeah. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. Actually, the topic today, Power of Consciousness, that's the first chapter in this book. Yeah, just to understand, you know, what consciousness is and so on. And there's so many more things in there. Like false ego is so subtle, we often miss it, we don't even identify it. Like when we get offended, so often that happens, right? What is it? False ego crying for justice and fairness. Or when we cannot forgive, false ego hanging on to the grudges and, you know, so many things. So yeah, it's really our constant companion and troublemaker. And I'm giving very practical steps how to detect it, how to subdue it and gradually get rid of it. And there is a whole chapter on chanting the holy name in japa, in kirtan. How to chant so we can actually really receive that power and mercy which the holy name carries. So very helpful. Then we have entering the Grihastha Ashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking. How to see that a man and a woman are compatible for marriage. We have, unfortunately, a pretty high divorce rate, and I dare say this is connected with bad matchmaking. or no matchmaking. That two people just meet each other, fall in love, have the pink glasses on. That's why I made it pink, and with pink glasses, we can't see what we get ourselves into. And then statistically, after 2 years of living together, the pink glasses fade away. And then the reality hits, and then we realize, this doesn't match. We have different moods, tastes, and different aspirations and goals. And yeah, very helpful. There's a whole list of over 200 topics which we should discuss with a possible candidate for marriage, with a cool head, to see, are we on the same wavelengths? Do we have same goals and moods and all that, Yes. And there's a chapter, I don't want to get married. It's also a pretty common thing. So yeah, I'm dealing with that topic. So yeah, helpful, for all people who are not married yet, or people who want to help their children or friends to settle in harmonious, compatible marriages. And then family life as an ashram, secrets of success. So that teaches us how to create this culture of bhakti in our home life. Yeah, we need a little bit of training and education in this, because it means, the culture of bhakti means we have to adjust our lifestyle, our habits. We have to transform our home. So it's a suitable place for cultivating pure devotional life and self-realization. Very interesting. So many details. So practical, but yet all based on the scriptures, not what I think. And there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage, how to live this principle of no illicit sex life in marriage. There is a little bit of confusion over this, and people are a bit at a loss and nobody even talks about it. So I did a bit of research. I came across interesting episodes with Prabhupada, where he says things which most people have not heard. Yeah, and which are not in the Bhagavatam. Yeah, so it adds a different perspective to the whole topic. And I hope it makes our family life more Krishna conscious, at the same time emotionally balanced and healthy. Yeah. And last but not least, that's my latest book, the Vanaprastha, Meeting Death with Joy. There's a whole section on death. We had a little seminar yesterday, day before yesterday. So what happens at that moment of death, and all the different subtle levels, how to prepare, how to support others, a bit of Sterbehilfe, yeah, accompanying people, or Sterbebegleitung. Sterbehilfe is something else, right? Sorry, yeah, see, I'm my German, I'm just realizing. Yeah, it's Sterbebegleitung, how to accompany a person and help them to let go and focus and move on. I have had that fortune of accompanying quite a few people in this the last 2 weeks. So it's so important, Yeah, we have to confront ourselves, with this topic. Our parents may be soon leaving, or grandparents if we are young, or friends, senior devotees. We have to know, what's the use of all our preaching if at that crucial time we get all emotional and we don't know what to do, yeah. And Vanaprastha ashram is that phase in life when the children are more or less settled in life, then the parents are meant to move to the retired phase in life. So how we are retiring in spiritual life. Yeah, hardly anybody talks about it, plans for it, or lives it. So there's a lot of important, interesting things in there. And it's not frightening or scary. No, husband and wife, they can do this as a team. They don't have to separate or whatever, But yeah, very interesting. So if anybody wants to get any books, please come out there to the book table and see me there. And if anybody has more questions or whatever, you can see me there. So what do we do, Peru? Shall we leave it at that, or shall we open up for one question or something? A little late. I'm there, simply available to you all. So please come and connect. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi, Adi Adi.
The grace Devaki Mataji ki jai. Thank you so much, dear Mother Devaki. So you can see that she really went deep into studying the scriptures and making it very practical. And therefore we highly recommend checking out the books. Those of you who haven't read them, I also read 3, 4.
Okay.
And it's really, I really learned a lot. So still some to go. And just as a little reminder, now there will be Prasadam Feast at 6:15, the Japa workshop. And I just wanted to also quickly inform that next Sunday we'll have or actually the whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday, there will be a special program in the memorial of Srila Prabhupada's arriving in America exactly 50 years ago, 1965. There will be a special program where we will dive deep into this very historical event in history that really changed the face of this earth. So more information you can find outside in the vitrine. Once again, thank you very much for coming today and have a wonderful Sunday feast. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
One quick thing I forgot to mention. She just reminded me. Tomorrow we have a little program here at 7:15. And we talk about culture, evening. Yeah, we talk about culture. What is culture? How does it come about? And then Tuesday, Wednesday, I give a morning session from 8 to 9 here, if anybody has time to watch it or attend it. And then Wednesday, I'm leaving. Okay, good. Thank you.
Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari.